Hi guys, welcome and welcome back again to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be answering these questions about yeast and baking powder and which should be used in making puff puff and buns. Alright, so if you want to know how this works, keep watching. Don't forget to like this video, and if today is your first time coming across my channel, please do not forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed yet and follow for more videos. Alright, so the first ingredient we have here is yeast, and this is how it looks like. This is how the yeast looks like. So for yeast, we have two types of yeast. We have the active dry yeast and we have the instant yeast. So in another video, I'm going to share with you the different types of yeast. So for today, this is what we are going to be using. This is the active dry yeast. So this is how it looks. And this very one is the one we use in making puff puff. So yeast is what you use in making puff puff, not baking powder, because your puff puff needs to rise and also, kind of ferment. You need to ferment the dough for your puff puff. So when it comes to buns, this is what we use, and this is baking powder. So this is how it looks like. This is just like powder, like every regular powder, like flour. So it's like this. This is baking powder, and this is what you use in making your buns or egg roll. So when it comes to egg roll, buns, and meat pie, this is what you should use, because for buns, egg roll, and meat pie, they kind of have this cake texture. So for donuts and puff puff, they have different texture, like kind of elastic. Is totally different from that of buns. Alright, so I'm going to show you step by step on how this works, and we are going to start with the yeast, and we are going to be making some puff puff with our yeast. So into my bowl, I've gone in with some lukewarm water, and I added from the sugar that I'm going to be using for the whole recipe, and I added the yeast because I said we are using the active dry yeast, so you need to activate the yeast, and this is how it looks after 5 minutes. So you're just gonna cover and allow it to ferment. You need the yeast to bloom, and once you start to see bubbles on top, this means that your yeast is good. It's very, very well good for you to use. So if you don't see that bubbles, then that yeast is a no-no. So if there is no bubbles, or if the yeast refuse to bloom, then that yeast is a no use. You can't use such yeast. So that's why when you're using the active dry yeast, you have to activate the yeast in lukewarm water, then just to know if the yeast is active or not. Alright, so after blooming the yeast, I went in with the rest of the sugar. I went in with my lukewarm milk, and then that's some milk and water mixed together, and then I sieved in my flour. I went in with a pinch of salt and nutmeg for flavor. You can use vanilla if that's what you want, and you want to mix this until the batter is looking just like this, very, very smooth and elastic. So this is how it looks, and it's elastic, and this is the work of the yeast. So when it comes to making puff puff or donuts, so this is what you use. You use yeast. Yeast is needed for your puff puff and donut, as well as bread and any other things that need yeast in them. All right, so we are going to leave this, to ferment. Just leave it in a warm place, maybe at room temperature, for like 20 minutes. This is 20 minutes later. That's because the weather is very, very hot. So this is how it looks after 20 minutes. And we are going to set aside this, and then we will make the buns. So I'm just trying to show you the difference between yeast and baking powder and how they works. All right, so for the baking powder, we are going to be making just small buns for this, and into my bowl I've sieved in my flour. And then I went in with my baking powder. I went in with nutmeg for flavor. I went in with sugar, a pinch of salt, and that's all. So I will mix that all together, and then I'm going to go in with soft margarine. You can use butter if that's what you have. And now mix in the butter, and you want it to be very, very well mixed in. And then we are going to add water or milk. And unlike a puff puff or donut, you do not need warm water for this recipe. When it comes to making buns, you need cold water or cold milk. So we are going to be adding some cold milk or cold water to this. This will help you achieve that crunchy outer part, because for buns it has to be a little bit crunchy on the outside and the inside soft. All right, so I've added my mixed milk with water, and this is because I don't want too much milk in the recipe. So I mix milk with water, and that's what I added. So you can add more liquid to the very consistency that you are looking for. If you want this to be very hard or you want it soft, and then you can go ahead and add more liquid to it. So this is what I'm going for. I have added everything I needed, and just mix that until it's smooth. Just make sure everything is well incorporated and there are no dry ingredients left. All right, so you can see the difference between this batter and that of puff puff. So this is the one for puff puff, and you can see the work of yeast. This has doubled, like it has fermented, and just look at that, very, very slimy, like it's so elastic. That's what I'm trying to say. Very, very elastic. You can see that. And the one for buns is a total different. So even if you cover the one for buns until tomorrow, it's not going to double to that extent of puff puff. Is not going to, kind of have those bubbles, or it's not going to double. It's not going to double no matter how you leave that at room temperature till tomorrow. Is not going to double in size. It's going to remain where it is, and that's because of the baking powder and the difference between baking powder and yeast. So another step is we are going to be looking at the texture of these buns and the puff puff. So we're going to fry this until they're nice and golden brown, and this is the buns. So you want to cut that into your hot oil and fry until it's nice and golden brown. Then once that is ready, I will remove the buns, and now I will start with the puff puff. So now you want to cut that into your hot oil. Then make sure you're frying this on low medium heat, because you want this to cook evenly both in and out. And you want to stir every now and then, because it's puffy. They are going to like flip every now and then, and one part might be cooking more than the other, so you will have to help your buns to flip. Stir that constantly to cook evenly until they are nice and golden brown, just like this. And once you achieve this perfect color, then this is ready. So this is the puff puff, that of yeast, and we have the one for the buns, which is from the baking powder. So this is the texture. You can clearly see this texture is like that of cake. So this is the work of baking powder, and a total different from yeast, which is that of puff puff. So this is very crunchy on the outside, very, very crust, it's so soft on the inside. So if you're going to be making buns, you don't need to allow the dough rise. You don't need it to double in size, and you don't need a yeast to make buns or egg roll. If you want it to come out very perfect the way it should be, then you should use baking powder, and that's what you need for your buns and egg roll. And here we have the puff puff, which is from the yeast, and you can see how elastic, very chewy this is. And this is the texture of puff puff, and the texture that that is given by yeast. So this is it. This is how it looks, and this is the difference, and I hope this helps. So if you did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know what you think about this recipe. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video. Enjoy.